Good afternoon and welcome to the next edition of the Superintendent's Corner. My name is Marty O'Shea, Superintendent of Schools for Longmeadow Public Schools. We have a distinguished panel with us today, and I'll just explain where today's program came from. It was really late February, early March. My email inbox started to explode with the achievements and accomplishments of several of our clubs here at Longmeadow High School, and so it occurred to me that it would be a good opportunity to showcase the incredible talents, the incredible achievements of some of our finest Longmeadow High students. So the students with me today share in common a commitment to extracurricular activity that is sort of academic in nature, and in each case they belong to clubs or organizations or classes that have achieved some very notable levels of success. And so wanted to showcase their talents, showcase their clubs, maybe talk a little bit about the role of their teachers and advisors. And so let's get started. I'm going to have the students introduce themselves one by one. So if you guys could introduce yourselves, the club or organization or class you're affiliated with, and then maybe what's the most notable achievement of your club or organization that you would want to highlight. So we'll start with Samir. You want to get us going?
Hello, I'm Samir Issa. I'm a senior, captain of the Science Olympiad team, and our most notable achievement is that we placed 14th overall at the state's competition in Framingham.
All right, excellent.
Hi, I'm Eugene Shao. I'm also a senior here. I am with the math team here. I'm the captain of the math team. Our most notable accomplishment is getting second at states and qualifying for the New England competition. And I am also with the Chemistry Olympiad competition. And our most notable achievements are winning both the AP and the high school division at the regional tournament.
Hello, my name is Esther Yen, and I'm affiliated with the Poetry Out Loud community, and I'm a junior, and I won the Western Mass Regional competition.
Hi, my name is Michael Back. I'm a senior. I'm with Longmeadow Lyrics, which is our honors chorus at Longmeadow High School, and Lyrics recently performed at Carnegie Hall as well as received recognition of a gold medal at MICA.
Hi, I'm Sarah Reyes. I'm a sophomore here, and I'm with the Model UN team. We just won Best Small Delegation at the UMass Model UN Conference.
Hi, I'm Vanessa Carteropoli. I'm the captain of the LHS robotics team. We just recently received 12th place in the New England District competition, and we qualified for the World Championships.
So and this is sort of scratching the surface, I think, of the accomplishments and achievements of these students individually and with their clubs. And what has impressed me is the achievement across so many disciplines. So we have the arts represented, the humanities, and the sciences represented as well. And so it's great to see students extending their learning outside of the classroom, because what we're talking about here happens for the most part, if not exclusively, outside of school hours. So can you guys talk a little bit about the commitment that's involved and when you find time in your busy schedules for this? And is this after school, weekend activity? How does this all work out for you in your busy lives?
I mean, for me, for robotics, when we were building the robot, we'd go after school every day for like a couple hours, sometimes way more than a couple hours. But yeah, for the build season, every single day after school was a huge commitment because it took a lot of work to build a working robot.
Yeah. What about the rest of you guys? Has this been a challenge to squeeze it into your schedules?
Yeah, with Model UN, usually our after-school meetings are mostly just to figure out the logistics of who's going to play what role in the committees at the various conferences. But then when you're preparing for the conferences, once you get your role and you know what country or person you're going to be representing, you have to do a lot of research to make sure that you know your role really well so that you can adapt to the various things that are going to happen in committee.
Excellent. Anyone else?
Lyrics, the chorus is actually a class within the high school, so it's taken as much as one would take math or science, but the thing about it is that a tremendous amount of the commitment needs to be outside. There are sectionals every night, every Sunday night. with our section leaders who are all students, as well as a tremendous amount of individual practice, what is expected.
Yeah. So one of the things that we talked about earlier when we were sort of prepping for this was we have clubs and activities and classes that where there's obviously a lot of learning happening and they're very academic in nature, but there's also sort of a competitive side. And so I'm curious to hear how that works in your various clubs and organizations, because sometimes we talk about learning for the sake of learning, or and that we want to engage in an academic pursuit as an end in itself, but it's been cool to see sort of the competitive side of some of this. How does that work out in your various clubs and organizations? Is it when we combine sort of competition with an extracurricular academic activity?
Well, definitely for Science Olympiad, competition helps drive you to really study more and practice more exams just to get that edge on someone else that's also competing for your same event. So like last year we got third in thermodynamics, but this year we got first through studying much more, obviously, a lot of more prep. Yeah, so I feel like competition really helps you learn, but it also helps you connect with everyone else who is like at the event. Like you can learn from other teams on like how they built their hovercraft, and you can bring it to your hovercraft. And for other building events, you really learn from seeing what other teams do, and then you can apply that to your own team.
So I want to come back to the competitive question in a minute, but Samir mentioned the hovercraft, and we have the long metal robotics team building robots, and it's really neat to see how these clubs give you an opportunity to apply what you've learned in class, and maybe we can come back to that. But let's stick with this sort of the competition factor and how that inspires your learning and inspires your activity. How does it shake out in your club or activity?
I mean, it's definitely incentive to do really well, because if you know you're going to be judged by others on how well your robot works, you better make sure you have a pretty good robot. So we had to do a lot of outside research because only upperclassmen can take the robotics class at this school, and the majority of the robotics team is freshmen. So we had to do a lot of outside learning, and we definitely learned. I would not have known all this stuff if I wasn't on the team. So the competition really was a good incentive to like learn more.
And some of you mentioned earlier that even though it's competitive, there is a tremendous amount of cooperation as well and camaraderie. Has that been? Can you talk about that experience?
Yeah, definitely. The Poetry Out Loud community shows exactly that. I mean, yes, we have to memorize, you have to put emotions into our poetry, that's the competitive side. But as you know, during the competitions, we're all very supportive of one another, and I think that healthy environment is necessary.
So it's interesting. I had the opportunity to see the Poetry Out Loud competition here in the Long Meadow High Auditorium, and it was great to see your peers being so supportive of you as you were reading the poetry. Other examples of the camaraderie that exists side by side with the competitive aspect of your club?
Yeah, well, the whole point of Model UN is to collaborate with other people because you're acting as, diplomats or representatives of a country. So to even get an award and to win, you have to be able to collaborate effectively with other people, because if you're just, off by yourself, you can't effectively create a resolution or a plan to address the issue that's the topic of the committee. So you have to, make friends and learn what other people are bringing to the table to be able to do well.
Good. So it inspires cooperation as well. And then the Long Meadow robotics team, I think you were describing some other examples of that.
Yeah, a big part of the company that runs the competition that we do, a big part of that is like cooperation, and there's even like an award, like the Gracious Professionalism Award goes out to the team that like works the best with like others, and that was like the nicest. So it does really promote like being friends with everyone else. Like I know I made a ton of friends from these robotics competitions. Like we've got plans to go places over the summer. It's like you meet a lot of new people that you wouldn't necessarily have met if you didn't do this. So yeah.
Yeah, excellent. And then can we talk a little bit about how the after-school activity or the extracurriculars that you're involved with is connected to your classroom learning? So what happens between 7:45 and 2:15. So how does that work out? What is the connection like between what happens in your regular courses and your club or activity?
I would say that because the competition is focused on the course material that is taught in the chemistry courses at the high school, to do well at the competition, we must utilize the things that we learned in the courses that we take at the high school and apply it at the competition. But that also requires us to interact with our teachers, with our classmates, to get a better sense of the information that we learn. So I would say that because we're competing in these competitions that incorporate high school course material, it sort of helps you connect better with your teachers.
Excellent. Yeah. Other examples of that where you've been able to apply what you've picked up in your regular coursework?
I definitely agree with him how it's an extension of what you learn at school, because for example in physics I learned optics, but it wasn't a lot of optics. But then when I did the optics event at the competition, I learned much more about optics. I learned a lot of new rules and stuff. So it definitely is an extension of what you learn from school, and it really helps you apply what you learn at school, because a lot of it's practice, but not a lot of there is labs and stuff, but you do more labs and more of these hands-on experiences.
Excellent. Esther?
It's actually interesting because since I'm on the stage for Poetry Out Loud, I utilize my experience on the stage with lyrics and other performances on the stage like orchestra and the likes, and so that really helped. It gives me courage to stand up on stage and speak out to the audience.
Yeah. And you're all, by all accounts, excellent students, and yet to be able to take it to the next level where you can publicly present your learning and apply your learning, that really is what makes this special as well. So, so again, you take these pursuits seriously, and you pour a lot of time and effort and energy into it. But my sense is that you're also having a whole lot of fun at the same time, even though these are pretty serious events that you're involved with. And can you talk a little bit about that, the friendships, the fun, the laughs that you've had along the way with your clubs and activities?
Definitely, my basement was destroyed
Yeah.
after 2 weeks before a competition. After school every day till 11, we would have people in my basement just cutting wood, building things,
Sorry,
gluing
Mom
things
and
together.
Dad, about that, but yeah.
Yeah. So my table might be covered in super glue and stuff like that. So definitely, it's fun because you have a ton of people around you that are interested in the same thing, and it really helps you bond. We would have dinners at my house. We would order Chinese takeout and stuff like that. So it's really fun.
Yeah, learning is a messy pursuit, really,
Yeah.
right? What other examples of that?
I still talk to a lot of the people that I met, in my committee at Model UN. Because, as I said before, because of the nature of the pursuit, you have to talk to people and you have to make friends with people. So even during the conference, at lunch breaks, you'll sit with the people that you were working with, have lunch with them, have dinner with them. We, at the conference, we ordered cookies together.
Yes.
And, we still talk now. So you make friends with people who share similar interests with you, so it's really nice.
Excellent.
I think that there are very few better vectors, I guess, to form relationships than to have that kind of work to get done together. I mean, it might not be the same as when you're 4 or 5 and you meet people by playing. I think that especially as you get older and older, the relationships that you have are usually in the not necessarily the more fun things you're doing in life, but the things that you're trying to pursue. Yeah. And those I think are the conditions which will form those kind of relationships. I mean, I can say that in chorus, I mean, we would do things like one Saturday we all had to come and do a 2.5 hour. No, it was long. How long was it? Like 4 or 5 hours on a Saturday. We came and we did a boot camp for our Carnegie Hall performance. We've been assigned 9 songs or something like that we had to learn. And we also had to send in recorded videos of those songs to prove that we'd learned them. Yeah. And for any of that to happen, we had to do a lot of work on the very opening end of the process. This is months and months before the event, but people are, that's the common reference frame of experience where we're all dying, we're all running out of breath, our throats are gone,
Yeah.
and we all turn and go, all right, can we have a break? And that kind of common experience. I mean, we all joke about, oh, you know, once we finish learning such and such song, we're going to burn the sheet music. And I think that it's you know, that common experience, that common, you know, enemy, if you want, the enemy of having to learn all this stuff, even if the product's really extraordinary, is I think what forms relationships.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned sort of play, right? And what a lot of you have described reminds me of the learning that I get to see sometimes. Don't take this the wrong way, but like in a kindergarten classroom, where it's very social, it's constructivist, it's open-ended, and sometimes those are the situations that generate the best learning. So it's kind of interesting to hear that. And so, how about in the case of Model UN or robotics? Has it been, or in the Olympiad? Have you found it to be a very social, fun activity?
For robotics, definitely. Yeah. It's the clubs at LHS and even some of the electives. That's when you get to meet kids that aren't in your grade. So in all my academic classes, it's all juniors with me. But then when you go to robotics, I make friends with a lot of kids that aren't juniors, like a lot of freshmen that I definitely would never have interacted with before robotics. So yeah, it's definitely, we're all like friends too. So it's like, because we all have the same common interest. And yeah, as Michael was saying, people with common interests kind of like come together to be friends more likely. So yeah, we're all like friends, big family.
I've never been in a Google laboratory, but from what you're describing, some of your activities sound like that. Again, just sort of messy, social, open-ended. You're not quite sure. You probably make a lot of mistakes, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Which again, that's another important part of the learning process, is working through mistakes, no doubt. Have you had experiences with mistakes and struggle and hitting bumps in the road that you want to talk about?
Well, I would say in math team, there often are mistakes. So especially during the team events, they usually give too many problems for one person to solve. So we usually divide up who studies what and who does what. And then of course when some people forget to study by accident. And so our team usually, even though they technically didn't do their job, we cooperate together, and it's because we all know something different, and because we can come together and just solve it together, we succeed in the end.
Good.
I'd say.
Other examples of struggles or bumps in the road or hurdles that you had to overcome?
Definitely our first hovercraft didn't even float. So that was...
That's not good when your hovercraft doesn't float, right?
Especially like for all the building projects we did, like our tower didn't work out, our Rudy Goldberg machine, it did well, but it wasn't the best.
Yeah.
The problem was starting late, not having enough time to really build a prototype, test it, and then bring it out there to the competition. Yeah. So definitely like planning and all that is pretty key to any sort of event like this.
Good. Other examples of struggles or hurdles that you had to overcome?
Go.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
I think with Model UN, a big part of it is you have to be prepared, but you also have to be able to adapt. And the problem is sometimes people don't prepare. And I remember at the UMass conference when I went into my committee, it's a weekend conference, so the first night it's a shorter session. And the shorter session, no one knew what they were talking about. We basically got nowhere because everyone only had a very vague idea of the topic. So then after that, and after kind of everyone, like the 30 people in the committee collectively realized, oh no, we don't really know what we're talking about. We need to, get some details hashed out. Yeah. We all kind of went back to our rooms and studied up a little bit and, talked to each other about what we need to do to be able to create better working papers and stuff like that.
Excellent.
So for robotics, we had a lot of struggle, seeing as it's the first year that the high school has had this robotics team. So none of us knew how to build a robot at the beginning of the season. It's really a miracle that our robot worked and did as well as it did. But at the beginning of the season, we had to enlist parents, a lot of parents to come in and help us and try and teach us how to do all this stuff. So it's a real hurdle we had to jump over, the fact that none of us knew what we were doing in the very beginning. So yeah, that was kind of hard.
Yeah.
robotics that we did well. I was actually recently talking to a girl from Granby, Connecticut, which is
Yeah, they have a team.
45 minutes away from here. Actually, someone who I knew through a choral thing, but I mentioned our robotics team because this is someone who does robotics, and she goes, "Wait, were you guys Long Metal?"
Yeah.
They were rookies and they were so good.
Yeah, we made a lot of friends with the other local teams, so they all know who we are now.
We love the clever name, Long Metal. Right?
Yeah,
and
everyone loved that.
as a rookie team, and it's so impressive. And
Yeah.
in a few cases, it seems that these are our first ventures into some of these activities. So it's really cool to see. I know Model UN has been around for a while, and then sometimes there are students who are gung-ho and are really interested, and other times it sort of fades away. So a lot of our clubs and activities at Long Meadow High School are really dependent on the interest levels of our students. We sort of feel like if there's enough interest out there and we can find an advisor, then we're going to try to put together a club on that. So certainly you mentioned the parents that have been involved. So again, a shout out to all the moms and dads who've supported their children and our students in these ventures. But teachers and advisors who've helped you along the way, how important have they been? What role have they played? Would you want to give a shout out to any of them at all?
I mean, I'd like to start if no one minds. We would not be even vaguely close, Long Meadow Lyrics, to where we are without the incredible support not only of our director Kayla Werlin, but also without all the people who she brings in. I mean, she brings in her husband, who used to do choral work at UMass. She brings in lots of friends or other choral conductors to help bring us in. But the amount of support that we receive in Long Meadow for something like a chorus, I mean, we are a fairly small school in a region with a not particularly high population density. So for a group from a small Western Massachusetts school to succeed like our chorus does is really a testament to the adults who just pour their hearts and souls into what we're doing. I mean, I mentioned that Saturday that we had to do that boot camp for Carnegie Hall. I mean, we gave our Saturday whatever. Our advisor gave her Saturday too. Our director gave her Saturday too. She has to keep track of all of us. She has to, and we're in New York, and she gives us a decent amount of freedom to walk around and stuff as well. And she spends that whole time just trying to herd the cats, which is 40 odd high schoolers with differing levels of maturity.
And even just pulling together permission slips and registering you for events.
That
So
logistical
many
mess, absolutely.
robotics.
Transportation and that kind of thing. I know that's a lot of work. Other examples of some of the advisors who've been kind of inspirational or have supported your work and activities?
I think the whole English department supported poetry from the start. Specifically, Mrs. Drake, my current English teacher, Mr. Weil, my English teacher last year, who just gave me tips and tricks, and Mr. Cormier, who just told me how to act while I was performing, and he had experience. It was really helpful. He even came to my first my regional competition, which really gave me, inspiration.
Good. That's a good boost, right?
Yeah.
Other examples?
I would also like to thank Mr. O'Connell for running a really good math team, and Mr. Valley for teaching us all that we need for the Chemistry Olympiad.
Prepared you well.
Yep.
Good. Others?
Mr. Zenko is our class advisor, very helpful. Without him, we wouldn't be at half of our competitions. From field trip forms to giving his room out whenever we need it, especially with our terrible organization, we always gave him last minute notice, and he would just be there to let us use his room and then talk to our teammates.
Yeah, Ms. Pollard is our advisor, and she always, is willing to give up her room to have us have, meetings to last minute figure out who's going to play what role, and, making sure that everyone has turned in all their money, and, giving up her own weekend to go and stay at a hotel in UMass. Amherst is not that exciting, but she gives up, her whole weekend to stay there and, supervise us while we're doing the conference.
And we're so proud of the work that you guys have done, and you've represented your community, your family, your school, locally, regionally, and in some cases nationally, national opportunities to succeed. So thank you for your contributions as well. And that's it for today's episode of the Superintendent's Quarter. Thank you and have a great night.